General Hospital spoilers reveal that the day of Donna's birthday had been looming for weeks, yet despite the smiles being practiced and the decorations meticulously arranged, there was an undercurrent of tension that no one could ignore. The Corinthos estate, usually a place of controlled chaos and carefully managed appearances, was instead a crucible of unease. Donna herself had been oscillating between anticipation and anxiety, the joy she usually took in hosting her family tinged by a subtle, gnawing uncertainty about how the day would unfold. She had always understood that birthdays, especially her own, were more than celebrations. They were moments when hidden truths could surface, when fragile loyalties could falter, and when the smallest missteps could ignite chaos. This year, though, the stakes felt higher than ever, as if the very air in Port Charles had thickened with secrets waiting to be exposed. The past of Gio, so long held in careful compartments, seemed to be pressing against the present with an intensity that could not be ignored, each memory, each lapse, and each unspoken mistake threatening to collide with the delicate balance of the family. The whispers of old betrayals and unacknowledged errors had begun to stir in the minds of those closest to him, prompting questions that no one wanted to ask aloud but which demanded answers all the same. Gio, for his part, had been acutely aware of the approaching day and the unspoken weight it carried. He moved through the estate with a measured precision, yet each step, each interaction with the staff, each glance toward a family member was tinged with an anxiety he could not fully suppress. The violin he had promised to play at Donna's birthday loomed in his mind like a symbol of obligations unmet and promises that now carried more weight than he had anticipated. The instrument had been damaged weeks ago, an unforeseen accident that seemed almost symbolic of the fractures in his own life, and though he had assured Donna that he would find a way to participate, the truth gnawed at him. He had no idea how to reconcile his commitment with his limitations. He feared the disappointment, not just of Donna, whose approval and affection had always mattered, but of Brooklyn and Dante, whose involvement in the day now carried far more significance than anyone could have predicted. Brooklyn had been adamant, insistent that she and Dante approach the event with caution, understanding that Joe's past missteps were now intertwined with the present in ways that could not be ignored. She had spent long nights considering every possible scenario, every potential interaction, and every conversation that might spiral into a confrontation that would irreversibly alter the family dynamic. Her mind was a whirlwind of possibilities, each one more complicated and fraught with risk than the last, and she could feel the weight of responsibility pressing against her chest as the day approached. Dante, for his part, was determined but conflicted, knowing that the choices he made in the coming hours would have lasting consequences for his bond with Gio. He had always prioritized connection, loyalty, and understanding, but now he found himself walking a precarious tightrope, balancing his desire to maintain a close relationship with Gio against the pressures exerted by Brooklyn's concerns and the undeniable tensions that the past had cast over the present. Every plan he formulated seemed fragile, every strategy tentative, yet he could not afford inaction. The very survival of his relationship with Gio, and the fragile harmony of the Corinthos household, depended on careful navigation through a minefield of emotions, grudges, and unspoken truths. The adjustments being made were subtle but profound, each minor choice reverberating across the family with greater force than anyone could have anticipated, and Dante could sense that the birthday celebration would become the stage upon which hidden realities would be forced into the open. Brooklyn, meanwhile, had her own delicate web of anxieties. She understood that Joe's past contained moments of recklessness, moments of moral compromise, and moments that could, if revealed at the wrong time, shatter trust irrevocably. She feared that even small incidents could catalyze a chain reaction, exposing vulnerabilities that the family had worked hard to suppress. Her concern was not merely for herself or for Dante, though both were deeply entwined in the outcome. She feared the impact on Donna, whose pride, joy, and sense of control had always been central to the Corinthos' identity. The birthday, which on the surface was meant to honor Donna and celebrate life, was now poised to act as a mirror reflecting the cumulative weight of hidden errors, unspoken regrets, and unresolved conflicts. Brooklyn understood that the moment of truth was inevitable, that the event would peel back layers of pretension to expose the raw, messy, and often painful reality of the family's interactions. She had counseled Dante repeatedly, urging patience, discretion, and awareness of the subtleties that could dictate outcomes, but she also knew that human emotion was unpredictable, that in moments of celebration, chaos often found fertile ground to take root. The Corinthos family, ever resilient yet frequently embroiled in its own internal turbulence, was collectively bracing for impact. Each member, from the matriarch Donna to the youngest and most impressionable, felt the invisible pull of the past as it collided with the present. Discussions whispered in hallways, glances exchanged in passing, and the careful orchestration of events all served to heighten the tension, amplifying the anticipation for what could unfold. The adjustments being made were not minor. They were seismic shifts in the family equilibrium, recalibrations of alliances, acknowledgments of past misdeeds, and confrontations with uncomfortable truths that could not be avoided indefinitely. As the day of the birthday approached, there was a tangible sense that the air itself vibrated with the imminence of revelation, each person carrying the burden of knowledge, suspicion, or fear that something in the celebration would trigger a cascade of consequences. Meanwhile, the past that had so long been compartmentalized began to seep inexorably into the present. Joe's mistakes, hidden transgressions, and the complexities of his relationships with Brooklyn and Dante were no longer safely confined to private thought. They were poised to emerge, to confront the family in stark and unavoidable ways. Secrets that had been tolerated or forgotten could not remain hidden under the weight of the gathering, and as each hour passed, the inevitability of disclosure became more pronounced. The family's equilibrium, long maintained through careful management and selective omission, was now in jeopardy, and the adjustments being made were simultaneously attempts at mitigation and acknowledgments of impending truth. Each member, whether knowingly or unconsciously, was participating in this delicate dance, their choices, words, and silences shaping the trajectory of the celebration in ways that no one could fully predict. The event itself, the birthday party, represented both opportunity and peril. It was a chance for Donna to witness the growth, redemption, and reconciliation of her family, for Gio to demonstrate responsibility and commitment despite past failings, and for Brooklyn and Dante to solidify their own bonds while navigating the complexities of familial expectation and loyalty. Yet, it also carried the potential for disaster, for emotional confrontations, for the unearthing of truths that could fracture relationships and destabilize the household. The tension was palpable, the anticipation thick, and the stakes could not have been higher. The family's trajectory, for better or worse, was about to be irrevocably altered, and every action taken, every word spoken, every interaction observed, had the potential to tip the balance toward reconciliation or calamity. As Donna's birthday finally arrived, the Corinthos estate was a cauldron of conflicting emotions. The decorations and celebrations provided a veneer of normalcy, but beneath the surface, the undercurrents of fear, expectation, and unspoken truth pulsed relentlessly. Gio approached the gathering with trepidation, mindful of the expectations, aware of the fragile trust he carried on his shoulders, and wary of the unpredictable emotional landscape that the day promised. Brooklyn and Dante, acutely aware of the stakes, remained vigilant, anticipating the moments when tension might erupt, ready to mediate or intervene as needed to preserve the family's cohesion. The adjustments being made in real time, the careful negotiations, the tactical silences, the deliberate omissions, and the strategic disclosures, were all part of a high-stakes orchestration aimed at navigating the complex terrain of familial expectation, personal guilt, and relational loyalty. The birthday of Donna, intended as a celebration of life, love, and familial bond, became a crucible in which hidden truths, past mistakes, and fragile relationships were tested against the heat of emotion, the inevitability of disclosure, and the pressing reality that no adjustment could completely shield the family from the consequences of its own history. Secrets would be revealed, loyalties questioned, and the Corinthos family, in all its complexity, would face a moment of reckoning that would echo long after the final notes of the celebration had faded. Each revelation, each confrontation, each nuanced emotional response contributed to a narrative of tension, resilience, and unpredictability, demonstrating that even the most carefully constructed plans could be upended when the past collided with the present, and that every adjustment made in anticipation of disaster was both a shield and a spark, capable of preventing calamity or igniting it in equal measure. The birthday, in the end, was no longer simply a marker of time or a gesture of celebration. It was a pivotal moment of transformation, a convergence of past, present, and future, and a testament to the enduring complexity, unpredictability, and indomitable spirit of the Corinthos family. The birthday celebration of Donna, meant to be a joyful occasion filled with laughter, music, and family togetherness, was suddenly overshadowed by a tension so thick it could be cut with a knife. Every detail of the gathering, from the delicate arrangements of flowers and the carefully chosen decorations to the placement of each chair and table, seemed trivial in comparison to the looming storm that threatened to descend on the Corinthos estate. Gio moved through the estate with a restless energy, his mind a battlefield of regret, fear, and anticipation, knowing that every step he took, every smile he offered, and every word he spoke could be his undoing. The secret that had haunted him for weeks. The night he had broken into Dalton's laboratory, the actions he had taken in desperate pursuit of answers, the choices he had made in the shadows, was now poised to erupt into the open, its revelation a potential catastrophe. The adjustment he had tried to make, to keep past mistakes contained and family bonds intact, was already failing, proving that even the most meticulous plans were fragile in the face of inevitable consequence. Dante's awareness of Joe's transgression added an unbearable weight to the situation. If Dante, who had always been a figure of guidance and moral clarity, discovered the full extent of Joe's intrusion into Dalton's lab, the consequences would be immediate and severe. The birthday, which had been carefully orchestrated to honor Donna and reinforce family unity, was now poised to become a moment of reckoning. Every laugh that rang through the halls, every cheer for Donna's milestone, would carry the undertone of impending doom, and the smallest interaction could trigger a cascade of exposure. Joe's anxiety, a constant presence in his thoughts, became almost tangible as he anticipated the moment when his actions would be scrutinized, when Dante's knowledge would collide with the facade he had so carefully maintained. The adjustments he had made to mitigate risk, the strategic silences and subtle evasions, suddenly seemed insufficient against the gravity of what was at stake, revealing the fragility of his carefully constructed defenses and the ever-present shadow of obsession that now hung over him. As the party unfolded, the interplay between celebration and suspense created a charged atmosphere. Brooke Lynn, aware of the undercurrents and sensitive to the growing tension, tried to navigate the emotional minefield, aware that her own actions could influence the trajectory of the evening. Dante, whose instincts were finely attuned to both moral and emotional truths, moved through the crowd with cautious awareness, observing interactions and noting inconsistencies, already suspecting that the serene surface of the party concealed deeper turmoil. Every gesture, every glance, every half-spoken word was now loaded with potential significance, carrying the weight of discovery and the looming threat of confrontation. Then, as the party reached its peak, the inevitable moment arrived. Gio, attempting to maintain composure and honor his commitments to Donna, found himself unable to escape the scrutiny that came from Dante's knowing presence. A casual question, a pointed remark, the slightest hint of suspicion, any one of these could ignite the revelation, and in that instant, the carefully maintained balance tipped. Joe's secret, the clandestine intrusion into Dalton's lab, was laid bare in an instant of unguarded exposure, and the reaction was immediate. Shock and disbelief rippled through the family, the carefully constructed adjustments collapsing under the weight of truth. The atmosphere of celebration turned electric with tension, the music and laughter now discordant against the undercurrent of fear and anxiety that had suddenly overtaken the room. Joe's apprehension became reality as law enforcement, summoned by prior arrangements connected to Dalton's lab, arrived at the estate, moving through the crowd with decisive purpose. The sight of officers, their presence both procedural and ominous, turned the celebratory event into a scene of unfolding tragedy. Family members, who had come to share in Donna's joy, were now witnesses to an immediate crisis, their reactions a mixture of disbelief, concern, and heartbreak. The adjustments that had seemed sufficient to prevent catastrophe proved meaningless in the face of immediate accountability, and the obsessions that had driven Gio to take reckless actions now threatened to define his present and future. As Gio was taken into custody, the implications of his arrest resonated beyond the personal. The Corinthos family itself was plunged into turmoil. The party that had been intended as a unifying celebration now symbolized the fragility of trust, the consequences of unspoken actions, and the inevitable collision of past decisions with present realities. Brooke Lynn, Dante, and the rest of the family were forced to confront the ramifications of secrets kept too long, the adjustments that had failed, and the obsessions that had driven reckless behavior. The event proved that even in moments designed for joy, the shadows of past mistakes could assert themselves, demonstrating that the management of risk and the containment of truth were never guaranteed to prevent disaster. The birthday of Donna, rather than marking a milestone in time, became an emblem of revelation and consequence, a dramatic turning point in the lives of those involved. It illustrated the delicate balance between intention and outcome, between secrecy and exposure, and between obsession and accountability. The adjustments that had been made in anticipation of disaster were rendered ineffective by the inescapable momentum of truth, and the obsessions that had fueled past actions now dictated the unfolding crisis. In that singular, tragic moment, the Corinthos family confronted the stark reality that even the most carefully orchestrated events could be shattered by the weight of hidden truths, and that the consequences of obsession, secrecy, and misjudgment could reverberate far beyond the individual, ensnaring the family in a maelstrom of emotional and practical turmoil that would define their lives long after the candles on the birthday cake had been extinguished. Brooke Lynn and Dante stood in the corner of the room, tension coiling around them like a living thing, their every breath heavy with the weight of secrets that could shatter the fragile calm of Donna's birthday celebration at any moment. The stakes were higher than ever, as Joe's recent actions, the unauthorized intrusion into Dalton's laboratory, the reckless decisions, the dangerous gambles, loomed over them like a storm cloud, threatening to unleash chaos the moment anyone misstepped. The party, which was meant to be a joyful gathering, had become a crucible for hidden anxieties, a space where every interaction carried the potential to ignite a chain reaction of consequences that no one could predict. Brooke Lynn's mind raced, her heart pounding with the knowledge that the repercussions of Joe's choices could affect not only him but also Dante, herself, and the entire Corinthos family, while Dante wrestled with conflicting loyalties, torn between understanding Joe's motivations and fearing the exposure of his transgressions. Every glance exchanged between them was loaded with unspoken worry, every laugh forced, masking the fear that the fragile bubble of celebration could burst into calamity at any moment. Meanwhile, Sunny and Donna, aware of the unfolding tension yet determined to shield Gio from the looming threat, positioned themselves as both protectors and arbiters, ready to intervene if any external force, be it law enforcement, rival power, or unforeseen calamity, sought to exploit Joe's misstep. Their presence was a beacon of stability but also a reminder of the immense responsibility resting on their shoulders. They knew that defending Gio could spark further complications, forcing them to navigate the fine line between family loyalty and the consequences of unchecked actions. Each moment of hesitation, each calculation of risk, underscored the gravity of the situation, highlighting how a single misjudgment could amplify existing tensions into a full-blown disaster. The invisible threads of influence connected every guest, every whispered comment, every glance, intertwining Brooke Lynn, Dante, Sunny, Donna, and Gio in a web of suspense, where the outcome remained uncertain, and the emotional stakes soared higher than ever. The pressure mounted as the minutes ticked by, the party transforming into a tense theater of anticipation. Brooke Lynn felt the weight of potential revelations pressing down on her. Every movement of Gio, every expression of Donna or Sunny, could hint at what lay beneath the surface, and every shadow of suspicion heightened the sense of imminent danger. Dante's gaze kept darting between Gio and the entrances, calculating the likelihood of interruption, of confrontation, of disaster striking at the heart of their carefully orchestrated gathering. The very essence of the celebration, intended to honor Donna, to bring the family together, was now overshadowed by the precarious balance of loyalty, secrecy, and the ever-present threat of exposure. Even simple interactions, a toast, a congratulatory hug, a passing remark, became loaded with tension, each capable of tipping the scales toward chaos or salvation. As Sunny and Donna prepared to act should circumstances demand, their resolve only intensified the gravity of the scenario. Every plan, every protective measure, every decision carried consequences that could ripple outward, affecting not just the immediate family but everyone present, and potentially altering the trajectory of each life intertwined with Joe's actions. The situation exemplified the complex interplay of danger, protection, and loyalty, underscoring how fragile peace could be when past mistakes collided with present circumstances. Brooke Lynn and Dante, aware of the volatile mixture of hidden truths, unspoken fears, and immediate threats, felt the suffocating pressure of inevitability. The anxiety of knowing that their efforts might not be enough, that even the best intentions could spiral into unforeseen calamity, hung over them like a shadow that refused to lift. The birthday party, a setting meant for warmth and celebration, became a crucible for testing familial bonds, revealing vulnerabilities, and confronting long-held secrets. Brooke Lynn and Dante's tension mirrored the larger chaos looming over the Corinthos household, a microcosm of the larger threats that had been building, both from within and outside the family circle. As the evening progressed, the delicate balance of loyalty, protection, and reckoning wavered, the potential for explosive outcomes escalating with each passing moment. Every heartbeat, every whispered word, every cautious step carried the weight of possibility, where one misstep could ignite a cascade of consequences, forever changing the dynamics between Gio, Brooke Lynn, Dante, Sunny, Donna, and the rest of the family. It was a night where every element of suspense, secrecy, and danger converged, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation, where the stakes were not only high but intimately personal, binding them all in a shared web of tension, uncertainty, and the looming threat of one of the most significant upheavals the Corinthos family had ever faced. In this charged environment, the actions of each individual became a study in calculated risk, moral compromise, and the struggle to protect loved ones while confronting the chaos that Joe's choices had unleashed. Brooke Lynn and Dante, caught between fear and hope, had to navigate the precarious landscape of loyalty and consequence, knowing that every move could either avert disaster or hasten it. Meanwhile, Sunny and Donna's protective vigilance underscored the depth of parental and familial commitment, highlighting the lengths to which they would go to shield Gio, even as their interventions threatened to escalate tensions in unforeseen ways. The interplay of intention, action, and consequence created a dynamic of suspense and dramatic tension that held the potential to redefine relationships, power structures, and the emotional landscape of everyone involved. Ultimately, the Corinthos family birthday gathering was poised on the knife's edge of revelation and catastrophe, a vivid demonstration of how secrets, loyalty, and familial bonds can collide to produce both moments of profound connection and explosive conflict. In this volatile mix, Brooke Lynn and Dante's apprehension, coupled with Sunny and Donna's readiness to act, illustrated the intricate dance of suspense, protection, and inevitable reckoning, proving that even the most joyous occasions could harbor the seeds of upheaval, forcing each character to confront the realities of their choices and the fragile, often precarious, nature of the world they inhabit together.